Over the past 50 years, Climatech has grown and kept pace with the ever-changing HVAC industry, providing our customers with the best knowledge on the most innovative systems and services.
Serving Lorain and western Cuyahoga counties, Climatech is a full-service heating, air conditioning, and ventilation company. A third-generation, family-owned and operated company providing the most up-to-date level of service and installation with the best quality products.
Today, your comfort demands customized solutions, utilizing best industry practice combined with high-quality, reliable products that protect you and your home.
The HVAC industry will never stand still. It's a commitment to the environment that we learn, train, and produce next-level efficient products and services.
Partnering with Green Sky Financing and our dedicated customer care software allows us to give you the comfort that you need in your home.
Smart products, smart technicians, and dedication to details drive us to deliver highly effective products into your home today and into the future.
It's week 5 of the Climatech Inc. NFL Prediction Show. Cole McDaniel, Vince McKee, happy to be back again. Of course, last week didn't go so well for the Cleveland Browns, but they have a bye week. They get the rest, but of course, we are not taking a rest. We still have plenty of NFL action to talk about. Vince, great to be with you again here this week.
Great to be back, Cole. It was an interesting week. You had a good one. A lot tighter race now, so it's going to be fun. I do want to throw this out there though for you, and really for anybody listening. Yes, I dropped 2 games back to Cole, now only up by 2. But you know, it's tough for me to have to root for Pittsburgh and root against Denver. I hate the Steelers. I love the Broncos. So even though it was 2 losses, I had to take on the chin. I really couldn't think of 2 better scenarios to do that with. So here we are again, Tuesday are wild, excited. And this week is tough. It is. I looked at the schedule numerous times today, and I'm still not real confident with my picks.
You know, the funny thing is I just said my logic for the Houston upset was that even though I didn't feel fully confident, I'm like, the Steelers are not good enough to be 3-1. They feel like more of a 2-2 ball club or less than that. And Houston was playing well offensively, improved defensively. So I was like, you know what? I'll just take the shot here. Really panned out because Houston obliterated the Pittsburgh Steelers in that game. As for the other one, you and I were almost confident that we were going to split, and then the Broncos come back and beat the Bears. The Bears just find every possible way to lose. And Justin Fields had a great game, but they still found a way to lose because Eberflus, I think he's going to be out after this week as head coach. They have a lot that's wrong just in that coaching staff. Of course, a lot of changes they've already had to make. So the Bears organization just not trending in the right direction. So it panned out for me. Even though I pulled 2 games back, you had a great week, Vince. 11-5. It just so happens to be I almost went perfect. It was 13-3. So it was an incredible week, especially considering how the first 2 weeks went, hovering around 500, even kind of right below that for myself. Now I'm at 38-26, and you're at 40-24. We're trending in the right direction. We're going up, and I'm getting closer. Only 2 games back now.
And like we talk about so many times over, guys, we record these shows on Tuesday nights. You know, most weeks on Tuesday nights. And the crazy thing about it is we both took the Browns. I'm in a separate pool, a family football pool I've been doing with my cousins and my aunts and uncles for so many years, right? So that is on year, I want to say like 26, but that's regardless of my point. Point being, I usually make those picks on a Wednesday night and then go back in Sunday morning after the final injury report comes out. So I was able to actually remove in the family football poll, I switched my pick from Cleveland to Baltimore once I found out what was going on with Watson. Obviously, me and Cole don't have that luxury. And I just want to say, I think if either one of us had known that DTR was going to be that bad, and that was bad on Sunday, I think clearly hindsight being 2020. So yeah, no doubt about it. You going 13-3 is an excellent jump, and it's going to be a lot of fun this week. I got quite a few upsets here we'll be talking about, and I've always said by week 5 it should be getting easier, but we will see, man. This is a tough little week coming up.
We'll touch on the Browns briefly at the end before we wrap up the show, but we're going to start this one off with Thursday Night Football. It's the Commanders and the Bears, and the Commanders, they've certainly improved, I think, from last year. I think they're taking some strides in the right direction. Now, they got hammered by the Bills just the other week. And then they came back against a division rival in the Philadelphia Eagles. Give them a game. Last play of regulation, touchdown throw to Jahan Dotson. They take it to overtime. They certainly had a chance there, but a deep kick there for Jake Elliott wins that one for the Eagles. And the Eagles are a much better team than the Commanders, but the Commanders hung tough. They played them tough. Even though they're still looking up at the Eagles and the Cowboys. I think it's safe to say that they surpassed the Giants this year in that division. They look better than what the Giants have so far. The Giants have a long ways to go in how they're playing. That being said, they're going up against the Bears. I already talked about the Bears' problems. As much as I think Justin Fields still has a lot of talent, whether he ends up being the Bears starter next year and beyond or not, that will be an interesting thing to watch. I guess the thing is, I think he's good enough to be a starter in the league. If another team makes a move for him and he starts elsewhere, I think he could actually be a good player. But he proved that he still has the ability against the Broncos, but they just found a way to lose that game with a bad call by Eberflus, not good game management, allowing the Broncos to come back in that game and win it. And until the Bears can show me something else other than losing a football game, I'm going with the Commanders in this one, 20-14. Low-scoring game. A lot of Thursday night football is low-scoring, so I'm going to say it's low-scoring between these two. But the Commanders, I just think they have to get it done because the Bears have shown me nothing else.
I too selected Washington in this one for the sole reason that Chicago can't not seem to close. And at the same time, Washington gave Philadelphia one hell of a game. And that's the thing that really stood out most to me is, level of competition. Not only the records being drastically different, 2-2 versus 0-4, the fact that Chicago is going on the road for a short week, a Thursday road game, never a good thing. Those two things combined with so much turmoil going on there and possibly a deflating loss that they just had. Mixing all those things, why I agree with you. Washington probably will finish ahead of the Giants, especially with what we've seen so far. Let's see how long, Barkley's out for the Giants before I really make that call. But regardless, Washington is definitely a better football team this year than they were last year. I wholeheartedly believe that. Going to go with the Commodores, the team my white family calls the Commodores, which I think is hilarious. But the Commodores, it is on Thursday night.
Yeah, and I would not be surprised if that name gets changed again. It feels like there's always still talk about the name. So who knows if they're even the Commanders next year, of course, because they got new ownership. So could be interesting in the offseason for them. But they could improve to even above 500, I believe, for the Commanders here to start the season. So that would be huge for them. As we look to Sunday Night Football, this one is a game. Obviously, this past week, it looked like when Rodgers went down at the beginning of the season, the Chiefs-Jets game would have been a dud. It didn't. Zach Wilson really outplayed Patrick Mahomes for a lot of that game. Mahomes didn't look like he was switched on, threw a couple ducks that turned into interceptions earlier in the game. He turned it on a little bit later. They got the job done. Maybe a little bit of some help from the officials on some no calls and some calls that they got. But regardless, the Chiefs ended up winning what was actually a tough ball game and a good bounce back game for Zach Wilson. But now you turn to a game that everybody expects to be a better game than that one. It's hard to top that last one. But on paper, the 49ers and the Dallas Cowboys, this is a marquee matchup in the NFC. A potential matchup that could really determine who's going to be that number one seed, because both of these two teams could be fighting for that spot come the end of the season. I wasn't quite as high on the Cowboys this year as you were, Vince. You were definitely high on the Cowboys. I believe your preseason prediction is that they maybe would be in the Super Bowl. Is that correct on that?
Yes, that was.
Yeah.
So preseason prediction for me was Buffalo, Dallas, rematch of a two-time Super Bowl when I was a kid.
Yeah. So you were thinking that Dallas might make it to the Super Bowl. Obviously, I thought that they'd get a wild card spot, be the 5th seed coming into the playoffs, have a good season, but I just don't trust Dallas when they get to the postseason. this could be a game. I know it's regular season, but this could be a game that really decides things later in the year. And we're only in week 5. Vince, can the Cowboys win this one against the Niners and get that first loss for the Niners? It would happen on the road for the Cowboys winning that one. Do you think it can happen?
I do believe it can happen. I don't believe it will this week. I'm a strong proprietor of playing the streak. Brock Purdy has not lost a regular season game as starting quarterback. I do not feel Dallas is going to be the team to do it to him. Now, here's the thing, guys. I still believe, as crazy as it sounds, that Dallas still should be one of the top favorites in the NFC. However, yet again this season, they've looked shaky at times. They've had some blowout victories. They've had a loss that makes me scratch my head. I still cannot wrap my head around this Cowboys team. Thus, this only being week 5, I'm going to play it safe this week. I'm going to take the 49ers. This is also a great playoff matchup. I would love to see it yet again this coming year in the playoffs. These two teams always seem to clash in the playoffs. But right now, it's week 5. As Cole said, it's no secret. Me and Cole love Sunday. Cole and I love Sunday night football. And this is one of the reasons why this game should be tremendous, down to the wire. Everything last week wasn't supposed to be. Like Cole said, it ended up being a good game. But this one has the hype. So all that being said, I'm going to go with San Francisco. They just have so many weapons. And when they're healthy, they're deadly. They're good on defense too. Special teams are strong. They're the total package. They have the better coach. Everything on paper tells me the San Francisco 49ers, with all those weapons, the coaching, all that stuff, we'll see if they pull it off. But if not, if I lose this game and Dallas wins, I'll tell you what, that might just mean that finally Dallas is over the hump. We will see. But gonna play it safe, going with the 49ers.
So 2 weeks ago, people would have looked at the Chiefs-Jets game and said, okay, blowout, Chiefs, hammer them because Zach Wilson is at quarterback. They would have looked to the following week, this one, and said, close ball game. Between these two teams, could go either way. Probably going to be close. I'm going to say that last week's game was closer than this one's going to be. As much as I think it's a nice matchup between the Cowboys and the Niners, until the Niners show me otherwise, I'm not going to trust that they can lose a football game because they've won so far to this point. Now, fortunate for the Browns, they're going into a bye week and have the bye week before they play against the Niners. Maybe the Browns could be the team that hand them the first loss because I don't think it's going to happen against Dallas. At home, Christian McCaffrey has been unstoppable. The guy has scored a touchdown in, 13 straight games, tying Jerry Rice's record or something like that. And he had multiple touchdowns in this last game. Guy can do it on the ground. He can do it receiving. He is a dynamic threat. But Brock Purdy's not a guy to underestimate, really. He might have been underestimated as a prospect coming out, but since he's been playing in the league, nobody can beat Brock Purdy when he's out there and he's healthy. It just doesn't happen in the regular season. Now, in another offense, would Brock Purdy look like Brock Purdy right now? Probably not. No. But in the play action with McCaffrey, and then everybody having to respect that and load up the box, Brock Purdy's mobile enough, he's accurate enough to make plays happen. I'm going to say this. Dallas is a team that gives up a ton of yards on defense, but they always get a ton of turnovers. Without Trayvon Diggs, who's out for the season, I think they lose their best guy in the secondary at getting interceptions, a ball hawk. Can they get the amount of turnovers this season that they got last year without Diggs? I don't know. Micah Parsons obviously still can bring the heat, bring the pressure. He's an incredible ball player. But I think Diggs not in that secondary hurts them a little bit. So I expect that Ayuk as well as Deebo Samuel might gash that defense there of the Cowboys. That's why I have the Niners winning that one 34-23. Again, that's an 11-point difference there. 2-possession ball game. But I think, again, it's going to feel like the Niners securely win that game and they can just kill the clock, run their offense, I think the Cowboys are going to have a hard time getting off the field defensively.
Want to make a point too. We often talk about great matchups. I was thinking about when I was a kid, this, when I was a teenager, that, this, that, and the other. Obviously, Dallas and San Francisco is such a great rivalry. Goes back so many years. You know what I mean? Like there was a stretch when I was in junior high and high school where the Cowboys and the 49ers combined to win 4 straight Super Bowls. Cowboys won 2. Niners took the year of 95 and 96. Cowboys got Sanders. Deion Sanders won it. I mean, it was just a really cool 4-year stretch. But heading into the Cleveland game next week, and again, we'll break all that down next week. It almost seems like a perfect storm, a perfect scenario next week for the Cleveland Browns if, hedge the bet again, if the 49ers win this game, Cole, and even if they win convincingly, I think they are cruising for a letdown coming into Cleveland.
Yep.
Winning on primetime television over a huge opponent. I mean, I'm not saying the Browns are going to beat the 49ers, but as crazy as this sounds, I like the Browns' chances better if the 49ers will win this week. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I'm on the same page because 49ers team is too good to have 2 letdowns in a row. I don't think it's going to happen. So you have a Browns team that's coming off of a bye week. They get to rest Watson for another week, get him healthy, rest that team up, and then you're hosting the Niners. Again, it's usually teams that haven't faltered in a while that just get a little overconfident. They stumble. And again, it could be an opportunity, could be a trap there for the Niners. Again, if they go into that one, go into Cleveland undefeated. It's going to help the Browns.
Oh, yeah. We have a lot of Browns fans that listen to this show and watch the show, I should say. So Browns fans out there root for San Francisco to win. Again, I want to say it reminds me, very early on into my first apartment I ever had watching Monday Night Football, and the Browns played the Giants the year after the Giants had won the Super Bowl. They came in something ridiculous at like 4-0 or 5-0 on Monday Night Football. The Browns, that was the year after we had won 10 games. Expectations were high, but the Browns were off to a horrible start. And I'll never forget the Browns winning that Monday Night Football game against the New York Giants on national TV. Again, Giants coming off that big Super Bowl and everything. Just sometimes hype could go in a certain way for you. So we'll see how it works out. Either way, Cole, I'm really glad you actually picked San Francisco because now I don't care who wins. I'm going to sit back and enjoy the heck out of that one. Yeah,
it's going to be a fun one. I'm looking forward to it. That is an excellent Sunday night football game. And I have to say, I like Sunday night football in general, but something about NFC teams on Sunday night, I don't know why it feels like almost like that's more of an NFC time slot. Where I think you get some really good games from that. The AFC teams, when they play, right, we'll get some good games. It's fun to see a bunch of different teams on it. But for some reason, something about Sunday Night Football makes me think NFC football. And that's exactly what we get with that one. As we
you say that, I agree.
Yeah?
It's weird you say that, but yeah. I'll tell you what else. Like, for me, Monday Night Football always makes me think about New York, Buffalo, Patriots, like Northeast United States. Although I'm sick and tired of the Jets and Giants already. They've already combined to be on national TV, I think, at least 4 times in 4 weeks. So we could chill out with them. That's funny you said that, though. I've thought the same thing for a long time. And it always seemed, too, when I was growing up, one other thing, the Thursday night football game was always atrocious.
Yeah.
That has since changed. That has since changed. But yeah.
It sometimes still is. I would say at times it's still a little bit atrocious, but I do think it's slightly improved. They're at least putting some better games in that time slot. And I don't mind when that Thursday night time slot, to be honest. So, but no, that's funny. We're on the same page with Sunday Night Football and feeling like NFC.
I'll tell you one more quick thing, not to make this show any longer than it is, but I cannot begin to tell you fans how many times on a Thursday night at Byers Field in Parma, I'm sitting in the press box, and my buddy, who's the PA announcer there, always has that game on his phone because he has Amazon Prime on his phone, and just sitting watching it as we're watching usually a pretty hideous game. So, all right, enough of the side stories for now. I could go on all night.
Let's move to Monday Night Football. And 2 teams that I'd argue might be a little bit hideous, right? But at the same time, they maybe have some potential for the future. I mean, I think there's some optimism for the Green Bay Packers, at least down the road. maybe not this season. The Raiders, there's probably some optimism with some of the guys that they have on their roster. But certainly, like I said, I just feel like there's a little bit of dysfunction there in the front office. Maybe again, they're dealing with that whole Chandler Jones situation and just got rid of him. I hope he's okay, but there's been a lot going on there. And obviously the Raiders, they just haven't been on the right track this season. Now, prime time again for them. Last time they were playing in prime time at home, they lost to the Pittsburgh Steelers. You took the Raiders. I took the Steelers. Well, time to change this thing up. This time, Raiders, they win at home in prime time against the Green Bay Packers. Packers, Raiders, I think it's going to be a close game, 24-21. But I think the experience of Jimmy G will prevail against Jordan Love and the Packers. I feel like Josh Jacobs had a good week that he needed, got back on the right track to how he was running the football last season. And I think the Raiders are due for a win. In the NFL, a lot of these teams, when ball games are close, a team's due for a win. And I just think the Raiders, considering the last time in prime time they lost, I just feel like things will trend in their favor this time in prime time at home. I think their fans are going to show up. And the Packers showing last time out did not look good against the Detroit Lions. Obviously, the Raiders are not the Lions. They're not nearly as good. But I just think that Las Vegas gets the job done.
I think Green Bay is a little bit irritated with how badly they lost to the Lions. They're giving these teams huge leads. This is 3 weeks in a row they've given up huge leads and then trying to fight all the way back in the second half. I think Green Bay is a better team than you think, Cole. I'm going to double down on my bet with them one more time. Going to take the Packers. Want to reference something here, too. This is a make-or-break game for a guy like Love. He really needs to step up and get a marquee road victory on national television. Something Rodgers never had a problem doing. Obviously, Brett Favre never had a problem doing. If Love truly is going to be the guy, that's where we're going to go with it. I learned a long time ago to stop picking Jimmy G on national televised games. You've burned me so many times. This time I'm actually picking against him. Go back and watch, fans. I can't tell you how many times I've picked not just Garoppolo when he was on the Niners, but the Raiders. Anytime I've seen him pick the Raiders and he picks the other team wins, or vice versa. This is just one of those teams that kills me every single year. Probably going to do it again. But I ran my mouth last week about Jordan Love. I'm going to stick with him one more week. We're going to go with the Packers.
Fair enough. Yeah.
That's the fact that I don't know how strong the running game or the rushing defense is of Green Bay also makes me nervous. But I don't think the play calling of Josh McDaniels, I just don't think he's smart enough to hand the ball off to Josh Jacobs 25 times a game like he should. So I'm counting on the Raiders to shoot themselves in the foot in this game, more so than I am the Packers to step up and win. Going with Green Bay regardless.
Could be fun. Is this the first time that Davante Adams has gone up against Green Bay since he left the Packers?
I believe so.
I think so. I don't think they played last year. So, yeah, that could be interesting as well. Adams going against his former team. Maybe he has a big night as well. So the first time you actually seem to go against the Raiders and go against Jimmy G in quite a long time in a primetime spotlight. I go the opposite direction. We'll see if pans out for me, or again, if you getting smart by moving off them actually proves to be the right decision there. Now, our upset picks. And I'm going to let you start off with your upset pick. But I think you're going to laugh about what I'm going to talk about here in just a few moments. But I'm going to let you go first here.
Well, before I get to my 3 upset picks, I'm going to reference this.
3 of them. Listen, I got to do the editing on this, Vince. You got to pick one that I can put up for the graphic.
All right, I'll start with my official pick.
Okay.
But before I get to my official that pick, before I get to my official upset pick, I'm going to jump the shark here and just say that if there was an NFL Europe Super Bowl this year, it would be the Jacksonville Jaguars. I have Buffalo going to the Super Bowl, so just a sneak peek when you guys look at the article, I am taking Buffalo over NFL Europe's greatest all-time team, the Jacksonville Jaguars. So if that's where you're going with your upset pick, I have a hunch that might be. Just wanted to throw it out there in case you don't, and we got to cross that bridge later. So
okay.
my official
I'll just start with it. Okay. The Jacksonville Jaguars are the greatest team that Europe has ever seen. And they get to stay across the pond. They didn't have to come back, right? They got to stay in England. They played at Wembley. Now they're going to play at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. They didn't have to really go anywhere. The Bills, they have to make the travel across, right? Obviously, that's tiring to make that trip across when the other team didn't have to do that. Jacksonville played well against the Falcons. The Bills just obliterated the Dolphins. They're coming off of a high. They've been obliterating teams the last couple weeks. A team like that has to falter at some point. They're going to go up against the Buffalo Bills, will go up against the Jags, the greatest team in American football in the country of England. And the Jags win that one. So there's my upset pick. Fine. I go first there on that. You're right that I had to go with Jacksonville over Buffalo.
This is how scary we know each other, folks. This would be probably a 10-hour car ride where there'd probably maybe be 10 seconds of silence. That's how well this relationship is. Anyways, okay, so I do have 3, but I'll start with my official one. Just to make it official, because my God, here we go again. Picking against Denver, taking the Jets. I looked at this line today, and I think it was Denver by like 2.5. This is on ESPN.com, which is what we use, right? So according to that, it had Denver as the favorite. Now, my thing about it is this. Okay, the Jets have been awful this year. I understand that they're 1-3. Their one win was against Buffalo. That's a huge win to get against Buffalo, just to start things off. And their level of competition has been so difficult. They haven't really been playing cream puffs. The Broncos, on the other hand, I cannot wrap my head around, no matter what. They have so many offensive weapons. The Denver Broncos with Sean Payton as their coach, the offensive weapons that they have, they should be doing a lot better than they have so far this season. Going back to Christmas Eve last year, I don't know what to think of the Broncos. You know, one week they're losing by 50, the next week they're losing by 2. They're so hard to figure out. I kind of feel like the Jets got a little bit of momentum on their side Sunday night. I still don't think they're going to make the playoffs or have some magnificent run with Zach Wilson. But if there was ever a week where they can come in and really just take advantage of something, I think that is it. So yet again, can't believe I'm doing this. Picking against my favorite team, I'm taking the Jets over Denver as my official upset pick.
You don't have to worry. I took the Jets as well, so you don't have to root against the Broncos.
Well, that is tremendous. That makes me feel a lot better.
Yeah,
other two.
I didn't do it to you. I didn't take the Broncos.
Okay. So now I can root for the Broncos because I hate the Jets and I love the Broncos. That's perfect.
Correct.
And I will touch on that point though. I think it's absolutely hilarious that Jacksonville Buffalo thing. I knew for sure you were going to pick Jacksonville. I just had that hunch, and it's just too damn funny. And I also thought about them being over there for 2 weeks is obviously a huge advantage.
Yeah,
I know it sounds silly, but where you sleep at night are comfortable enough to sleep, and I'm coming off a stiff neck here. I'm very sore because of back-to-back bad nights of sleep. It's comfortable. You need to get in that groove, waking up in the same bed every morning, and you're doing that for 2 straight weeks if you're Jacksonville. Your hotel there in England has become your home for those 2 weeks. They're probably more comfortable, but I just think Buffalo's so red hot right now. I think they're going to come in and I'm not going to say they're going to torch Jacksonville, but they should be able to win. As far as my other 2 upset picks go, one of them I think you're going to love, maybe, and another one, we'll see how it goes, I guess. Tennessee over the Colts. Colts are a very slim favorite. I think Tennessee is the better team. Now, the Colts have shown some flashes so far this season. They've shown what they could do, but I truly believe Tennessee is not, with that defense, which is pretty sturdy, with Mike Vrabel as their coach. Derrick Henry seemed to really kind of get off the schneid last week, was playing better. Ryan Tannehill was playing better. I just don't see them losing to this Indianapolis Colts team and a rookie quarterback. I have a lot of love and respect for Coach Vrabel. Going to go with Tennessee. Don't really feel too nervous about that one. I know it's an upset pick, but I truly believe that's the kind of game that should be a pick 'em. And if it was in Tennessee, I believe Tennessee would be the favorite in that game, actually, quite frankly. Now, this other one is kind of wild to me because if you would ask me this a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, I think it would have been a sure thing for me. However, I have flip-flopped on this team. I don't think they're going to be great by any stretch. Both teams very lukewarm about all of a sudden, but I'm taking, and this is going to be a shock to a lot of people, taking the Houston Texans to hand Desmond Ridder and the Atlanta Falcons their first home loss of the season. I say this because, hey, again, Atlanta's making that trip home from London. There might be some jet lag there. Also, they have not really taken off. And now I've read, I've seen, I've heard all week long so far about Atlanta possibly benching Desmond Ridder, which I think is absolutely insane if they do that. I think it's the dumbest thing they could possibly do. But anyways, that's putting a lot of pressure on a young kid. That's them. Going to talk about Houston for a second. CJ Stroud is a real deal, folks. The kid probably should have went number 1 in the draft. I think it's insane that he didn't. He is easily the best quarterback to come out of that draft, and he is balling out. He's found a big-name receiver the last couple of weeks. They have formed a chemistry. I really think we are just now seeing everything that CJ Stroud is capable of doing. Houston, not a playoff team, not a team that's going to even contend for a wild card spot. However, they're going to be a fun team to watch because of their quarterback. So we're going to roll the dice here, taking 2 underdogs, both on the road, going with Houston, going with Tennessee.
Yeah, I'm going to say that let's start off with the Indianapolis-Tennessee one. I want to bring that one up. The Tennessee Titans this year, it's like this. Up and down, up and down. Got throttled by the Browns. Then at home, they hammer the Bengals. Now they go on the road against the Colts, a team that did fall this past week. They had a good overtime victory against the Ravens the week before. As much as I think both of these teams aren't that good realistically, and I trust Mike Vrabel more, I'm going to say that Indianapolis at home, though, they're going to get the bounce back. And I think the up and down roller coaster continues for the Tennessee Titans. I don't think they're going to be able to do anything consistent. And I actually think that the Colts will find a way to bounce back after they made a comeback against the Rams. The Rams were up big. The Colts came back, made it interesting. Rams still won in the end. But I think the Colts do find a way to bounce back. I have them winning that game over the Titans. As for the last one, I think that's interesting because you took the Steelers last week and I took the Texans. It panned out at home. Houston's now 500. Atlanta's now 500 as well. And I think the interesting thing for me in this game is that all the talk about Desmond Ridder, right? Everybody thinks Desmond Ridder's awful. Desmond Ridder's no good. To be honest, my thing on this is Desmond Ridder's not perfect. He's a young quarterback. He's got things to work on. I don't think that Arthur Smith has necessarily called some of the best games when it's come to what he's trying to do schematically, passing the ball. I also think there aren't a ton of great wide receiver weapons on that team for Atlanta. They have Drake London, who I wasn't super high on coming out of his draft class, has good size, good hands, but lacks separation and doesn't have burner speed. Also, then you have Kyle Pitts is probably the next best receiver that you have, and he's a tight end. Pitts, I have not been impressed with his route running this year. It seems like there's been a couple times Ritter's put one in a spot where he probably should have gotten to it if he kept running at full speed. I think he's let off a little bit. Routes haven't been up to the pace that I've seen from Kyle Pitts last season, previous seasons, back to his college days. Something just seems off there in how Pitts is running his routes. After that, you have Matt Collins, big physical guy that had a good year with Vegas last year and had done nothing in his career up to that point. I don't trust what they have receiving-wise. I do trust the backfield. Bijan, Algier, great backfield. Ridder has good legs. He can move. I trust that. I think he's an accurate quarterback. He's going to make some mistakes with not having the best receivers out there. I'd say give him a little bit of grace, a little bit of mercy, but I think he's learning, right? He had a good first 2 weeks. The Falcons started off the season 2-0. Even when he wasn't perfect, he was a gamer. Got the comeback against the Packers. And you saw the intensity and how intense he was on the sideline, keeping his guys motivated. I like what I've seen out of Ridder. He, again, is a guy who doesn't lose at home. Since high school, college, so far in the NFL, again, their last 2 losses, again, those weren't home games, right? So the thing is now they're back at home. They go up against the Texans, and CJ Stroud is the best quarterback from the last 2 draft classes. That includes Desmond Ridder. Stroud is the best quarterback by far and away. He's going to be a long-time starter in this league. He's going to be a cornerstone for that Houston franchise, and they need to just build around him, make sure that they can protect him. That being said, though, going on the road after a big win against the Steelers, is this Houston team good enough to win another one going up against a Falcons team that I think can run the ball well, control the clock? I think Ritter's a gamer, right? And I think with all the talk about him, I think he's going to step up and prove some people wrong. And I think that the Falcons, they win this game. So I'm going with Atlanta to beat Houston at home, get their 3rd win on the season, move above 500, get back to their winning ways, run that ball with Bijan, get Algier some more touches. And as much as I think CJ Stroud's going to play well again, I just think that if the Falcons can control the time of possession, then that offense there with Stroud can't be on the field enough time to actually get back in this thing. And that's why I have the Falcons winning 28-21.
So fans, there you have it. 4 games already. Make sure you click on the article, keyonsports.com. Same logo you're going to find right here on this YouTube page that you're currently watching. Just a quick review for you before we go back to Cole and begin the Browns talk to wrap this one up. Green Bay, Las Vegas, Buffalo and Jacksonville, Tennessee and Indianapolis, and the Jets, we'll have the Jets, Houston and Atlanta. The 4 games you already know that we're picking different. Very possible there might be more. So Cole, this has been a lot of fun once again this week. We'd love to wrap up the show right now if we could, but sadly we can't. Have to kind of dissect that horrible, horrible Browns loss from this past weekend. And like I said, to kind of open up this show, I think, hindsight being 2020 for the both of us, if either one of us knew that Watson wasn't going to play, and there's so much behind that story in itself, maybe perhaps we would have picked a little bit differently on that one.
Yeah, DTR looked good in the preseason, but the preseason's the preseason, right? I understand why they got rid of Josh Dobbs, because the Cardinals came calling, offered it up. I don't think if the Cardinals pursued that, then they would have made a move. They weren't the ones seeking it. It seemed like Arizona was the one actually seeking that. So you send Dobbs away because then you also feel good about DTR. And I think there's good things, right? You saw it in the preseason. He's mobile. I think he was pretty accurate in the preseason. A lot of good flashes, certainly not perfect. My concern is probably his height, and he's not the biggest guy. I am concerned whether he can actually see over the offensive line very well, maybe a similar issue to what Bryce Young might be having in Carolina. I also think, again, he looked like he got thrown around like a rag doll on some of those sacks there against the Ravens. Can he hold up physically in this league? Right now, as a backup, that's okay. In the future, if he ever becomes a starter, can he be the guy? I don't know, but there was at least good learning lesson for DTR. But the problem is this. Kevin Stefanski, you need to call that game better. And I have a lot of good things to say about Stefanski typically, but there's little things here and there that just frustrate me. Ultimately, he's a guy who can help you win a lot of ball games, but he's going to cost you a few by what he does with his calls, maybe how he manages the game. And that comes back to hurt. When you have a guy like that, a rookie that you're sending in there to start for the first time against a division rival, and you need to find a way to run the ball. Why were they not giving Jerome Ford the ball, establishing the ground game, controlling the time of possession, and trying to keep Lamar Jackson off the field? Lamar Jackson's going to outduel DTR any day, especially in DTR's first start. So you're going up against a healthy Lamar Jackson. Keep him off the field. Run the ball. They hardly gave Jerome Ford any touches to start. They were trying to go to the air too early. DTR, you could see that everything was moving fast. And because of the mistakes he made early, they were then chasing the entire game. If they could have scored early in that game, ran the ball, killed the clock, they could have been playing from ahead. Whole game plan changes. Defense doesn't have to be on the field nearly as much. But the problem is you didn't run the ball. You went to the air too much, as I mentioned. The mistakes happen. Then you go down and now you're chasing, and now DTR just has to keep throwing. He didn't have the time in the pocket. He was pressured a lot, and even when he wasn't pressured right away, because everything was moving so fast, he was trying to get out of the pocket before there was even pressure there. He didn't have accurate throws, threw a lot of dumb passes, resulted in interceptions, potentially could have resulted in a couple more if they weren't so short-armed on some of those deep ball throws that just landed in the middle of the field with nobody around. Didn't like what I saw there, and I feel bad for the defense because they played double the amount of snaps they typically played in each game throughout the start of the season because the offense had been able to stay on the field. That didn't happen this time, and it made it look easy for the Baltimore Ravens. But here's what I'm going to say. As annoying as that game was, I wasn't nearly as mad about that game. There's some games where I'm like, I feel like the team should win, and I'm up and I want to just yell at the TV and I want to get upset with it. I didn't this game because when that change happened and I knew DTR was going in, I'm like, if we pull something off, we pull something off. But I didn't have high expectations then that they could piece something together against Baltimore in that game. My mindset shifted. I felt like Baltimore was going to win, and they ended up doing it. But before we move to you, my last point is this. I don't hate that Deshaun Watson didn't play. If Watson played, they maybe had a chance to win that game. Could have been a close ball game. Could have been a fun one. But as much as I hate a loss, the bye week being early in the year actually could pay off. Everybody probably hated an early bye week. I know I did when I saw the schedule release. Now I don't. On that quarterback power, the run up the middle, Deshaun took that hit to the arm. Again, hasn't been 100% since that point. And even if there wasn't a huge pain issue, even if there's nothing major that should keep him out for a long time and he was cleared, regardless, if he didn't feel 100% yet and didn't feel ready to go out there, and they mutually talked about and thought, let's take the time to rest this week, you got the bye week to rest, and then you can be back to 100% against the Niners, I feel a whole lot better about them letting him rest rather than him potentially re-aggravating it, making it worse, and then we're talking about a couple weeks he's out rather than one. This isn't that type of situation where, Baker was trying to fight to come back in. Sure, you have to love the intensity, the desire to be out there, but they should have kept Baker out. The Browns would have been better without Baker out there on the field. I don't necessarily know if it would have been the same this past week with the Watson situation, but I don't want the injury to get worse. I want to heal and get better. And if he's only out one game all season, I feel a lot better than that than potentially an issue of him being out for longer. So I don't hate him not playing in that one.
Well, Cole, not to mirror everything you just said, but I pretty much agree with it. Had a lot of the same points I was going to make. You kind of already made them, but I do want to add on to a few of these points. Okay, so number one, how did Baker Mayfield turn out, right, when he played hurt? Baker Mayfield very possibly could still be the quarterback of the Cleveland Browns if that didn't happen. If he never would have got banged up in that game 2 years ago, ironically enough, against the Houston Texans, and the Browns had started 3-1 that season. As you recall, they beat the Bears in Justin Fields' first game. They beat a backup quarterback against the Houston Texans. And then oddly enough, in week 4, they beat the Vikings 14-7 in one of the most boring football games of all time on the road in Minnesota that year, 3-1. But Mayfield was hurt. Nothing ever got any better. I think OBJ was gone by midseason. It was a train wreck. So I want to say this, though, okay? Because everybody that I've heard has said, oh, well, you're paying this guy $232 million. He needs to play hurt. I disagree. If you've invested 3 first-round draft picks in someone and $232 million, why in the hell would you put that guy in the game if he's not fully healthy? It's stupid. You're ruining your investment by even rolling that dice. He's going to be short-arming throws. Guys, I'm telling you, I'm a broken-down 41-year-old man. I'm not an athlete in a top condition in my life. I've had a sore back and sore shoulders for 3 days. I've not been able to sleep. I can't even imagine being an NFL quarterback and getting slammed full speed like Watson did 2 weeks ago when he took that power run up the middle against Tennessee. We don't know what the guy looks like. It's none of our business. I'm willing to bet he was probably bruised from shoulder to pectoral. That's a lot to come back from that. Wouldn't you rather have the guy sit out a week? It's a 17-week season, which I think is stupid, but you have that 17th week now, right? You could go 10-7 and still make the playoffs. Whole point being, it was actually, ironically, the perfect time for the guy to get hurt and the perfect time for him to sit out, knowing that you were going to have 2 weeks to get him ready, get him healthy, get him ready for the stretch run. I'm fine with that. That's not the reason they lost. The reason they lost was the first thing Cole McDaniel said when he began his diatribe there, and that's what I wrote in my article post-game. I'm going to read it to you verbatim because it's only about 4 sentences. I wrote, "Where's the run game? In a game where you needed that more than ever, they completely abandoned it. Hunt should have been the feature back. He isn't. Hunt was limited to 5 carries for 12 yards. Even worse, Jerome Ford, who needs the touches now more than ever, limited to 9 carries for 26 yards. They should have ran the ball like crazy in that first half. They didn't. Then you get to the second half, you're trying to play from behind. Out the window it went. Here's the other thing. Everybody wants to get down on that defense, all right? That defense was not bad Sunday. Go back and watch, folks. In that first quarter, that defense forced 3 3-and-outs. The only touchdown of the first quarter they let up was when they had to start at the 10-yard line because of a bonehead turnover, interception all the way back to that 10-yard line. Go back and watch it. Our first quarter defensive performance was not bad. Now, did they miss some tackles later in the game? They sure did. Was it 85 degrees down in the field? It sure was. Were they on the field 75% of the game? They sure were. I'm not absolving the defense of everything that went wrong in that second half, but when you look at it, as Cole McDaniel said, if Stefanski would have called a better game in the first half, the Browns offense probably would have been on the field a little bit more, okay, or at least soaked up some more time. That Browns defense was on that field at least 70% of the first half, if not more. And by the second half, I'm sorry, but the win was out of that. I knew by halftime the Browns were going to lose. I think anybody could have told you that one. Mm-hmm. They weren't able to do anything on offense. At the very least, to have stayed in the game, they needed to do something with that run game. They didn't. Want to point this out as well because Cole mentioned Joshua Dobbs. Yeah, we could have had a better chance to win that game with Dobbs. All right, agreed. I wrote that in my article. Does it sting right now? It sure does. Does it sting that Tampa Bay is 3-1 and Mayfield's lighting it up? It sure does. But again, we are through 4 weeks of the NFL season. 4 weeks, folks. Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals are 1-3. Nobody saw that coming. A lot of people were high on the Jets. They're 1-3. A lot of people didn't see that coming. Chargers, no clue what we're going to get out of them the rest of the way. Herbert playing with a broken finger, even though it's on his non-throwing hand. Let's see how that affects him. Lucky for them, they too have a bye this week. There's a lot of comings and goings in the NFL, especially in the AFC, that we thought was going to be top-heavy. Well, now you look, Kansas City looks pretty damn vulnerable all of a sudden. Buffalo, we still don't know what we're going to get out of them. They look great. The Dolphins look good. They just got smoked at home. Or not actually, that game was on the road, but regardless. Here's the thing, guys. It's so early in the season to wrap everything up and go back to point 1 of this. Shouldn't have risked Watson playing. They were right to let him make the decision, but I think he is a little bit more methodical in his thinking, a little less, I don't even know the word, emotional with his thinking as Mayfield was. A win would have been great. Even a competitive game would have been great. But at the end of the day, kind of smart. Keep him out 1 more week. Let's see where it goes from there. Want to throw this out there, though. God forbid you criticize Myles Garrett in this town. God forbid you criticize Myles Garrett. But I wrote this in the article, too. Myles Garrett continues to jump off sides or line up in the – not even jump off sides. Not even jump off – line up in the neutral zone. Cole, we cover high school football 16 weeks every fall. How often do you see a kid, a 15-year-old, 16-year-old kid line up in the neutral zone? You don't. What is this guy doing? I understand that he's going to get held on almost every single play, and to me, it's the most egregious thing I've ever seen. He gets held literally on almost every single play. It's ridiculous. But at the same time, why does this guy keep lining up in the neutral zone? Stop giving the other team 5 yards. It might not seem like a lot. He does it 3 to 4 times every single game. I don't even have to wait for the referee to finish his announcement. Once I see him make that symbol, either offsides or the neutral zone thing, I already know the next thing I'm going to hear is number 95. It's an obvious thing. I don't know why it keeps happening. It irritates me as a fan. We're already getting our butts kicked. That just puts salt in that open wound. So for me, The good, the bad, the ugly, all of it. Just want to get past Sunday.
Yeah, and Miles is such an athletic freak that he doesn't really need the head start. I mean, he already can wreak some havoc. I think he's just so anticipatory sometimes that he gets a little over antsy. And he definitely pushes the limit when it comes to where he's lining up at times when you see his hands and where they actually are in comparison to that football. So he's
lining
gotten hit
up.
for it a couple of times for sure.
Every game.
Yeah.
Go back and look. Every game.
Every game,
That's where he's lining
there's
up.
something. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
the guy drove his car too fast and got in a car accident. The guy did this. There's always something. He can never just be completely from start to finish with no issues. There's always something. Just saying.
Yeah.
Go back and look. I like him as much as anybody else, but if they would have traded him in the offseason for some other draft picks, would have been cool with it. Not going to get on that diatribe again, but would have been cool with it.
Yeah, you and I had that conversation in the last season that it was something to maybe explore, get a couple talented pieces and some picks potentially for him. But I do have to say this, with that defense, having him on the defense, they're really solid. I mean, that front is really tough to deal with. Having Miles is a huge asset. So especially with Smith on the other side and Okoronkwo and some of those guys, I like seeing what they have this year, but maybe for the future might be something to be brought up in conversation depending upon how this season goes. I will say this, my final point on what we were talking about. What you were discussing then with all the money and $230 million for Deshaun Watson and people saying that he needs to go out there and play because of how much money he gets, right? It's like the same thing is having a Corvette, right? And then your Corvette, you have an appointment to go get a tire change because you found a nail hole on it, right? For next week, right? They're supposed to come and pick it up, but you're like, it's such a beautiful day out. I know that there's air leaking out of this tire, but I really want to take this thing out for a drive. You're not going to do that with your Corvette, right? That's a very, very expensive sports car that you got there. And you're not going to want to potentially didn't have a flat tire on the road, cause issues, damage the car, right? It's the same situation here. That appointment to get the tire changed and then come pick it up is a week away. It's the same thing as the bye week here for Watson. It's a week away. A week away where, again, he gets some time to rest and recover. Don't push it when you don't have to push it, right? Make sure he can come back 100%, be ready to go, play like he did in week 3, and I'm cool with that. And I think we're on the same page, obviously, there. We both said the same thing. I'm excited to see what he can do in week 6 when he comes back following the bye week. And again, if the Niners win, could be a great opportunity for the Browns to possibly catch a team that might be sleeping a little bit because they'd be undefeated still, already through that first section of the season down.
I'll make one closing point here. And this is something Cole probably already knows again because he knows me. I don't care how much athletes make. I couldn't care less. You know who I care? How much they make? My coworkers. Because if they're doing the same thing I'm doing, I want to make more than them. That's just the competitive nature in me. That's who I am, right? I have a beautiful wife. Do I really give 2 craps that what's his face Travis Kelce is dating Taylor Swift? No, I don't. Stop showing her every 10 seconds. I don't care.
It's gotten old fast.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
In 2 weeks, it's gotten ridiculous. And it's like, yeah, my wife loves it. I don't care. And it's so frustrating. What fans focus on is ridiculous. All right. Now you want to talk about your tax dollars going towards a new stadium and you don't like the stadium because the Wi-Fi is not good or the concessions are too high. I'll listen to that argument. I'll listen to that argument all day. That's cool. Let's chat it up. I don't care how much the athlete makes. I don't care. Is it going to make me more or less money? No. Don't care. Fans, focus on the wins and losses and how you get there. Stop focusing on how much somebody makes. I'm sick and tired of it. I've heard it for 2 seasons. Done. Over. Move on.
As long as the owner's willing to pay the money, write the checks, and we still have cap space, which the Browns do because of Andrew Berry being a wizard with restructuring deals. then you have nothing to worry about at all when it comes to the money and how much these athletes are getting paid. That's going to do it for us here for week 5 of the Climate Tech Inc. NFL Prediction Show. Again, make sure to go on the website, keonsports.com, to check out the full list of picks. Quite a few we have different already that we know of. There could be more, so make sure you pay attention to the article. Of course, Keon Sports High School Football Game of the Week on Friday night. Myself, Dom Clary, and Darian Jackson filling in for Brandon Soder this week. We're going to be at Olmsted Falls as they host Avon Lake in SWC action. Of course, make sure to pay attention to all the other written content as well. And Vince, what do you have on the slate this week?
I will be at North Ridgeville High School as they host Bremen Park in an SWC clash. So between Cole's game and my game, that's 4 of the top teams in the SWC. Any 4 of them looking to challenge Avon later on in the season. We shall see how that pans out. But yeah, 2 really good games on the docket, mine and written content, Cole's and broadcast. It's going to be fun, man. Coming off that Holy War, I could use a game. Holy War, fun as always. There's a magic in the air anytime you sit in that stadium. I want to shout out my guy there, Dan Coughlin. Let me tell you, I had a blast in next to him. He is a St. Ed's diehard, so that was pretty fun to listen to him get all excited. But yeah, it's going to be another great week of high school football. Hard to believe. Week number 8, and for guys like myself and Cole McDaniel here, week number 8 for us is the midway point. I know a lot of people look at week 5 and like, 10-week season. No. We are just now hitting our stride. Week 8, as everybody knows, me and Cole go straight through the state championships. I will be skipping a family wedding this year for the state championships. So we got a lot going on with high school football. And guys, the Buckeyes return this weekend. Make sure you check Cole's video out next. Watch this one first. You're already on it. Go ahead. But then go over to the Keon Sports YouTube channel, which, again, you're already on, and find that Ohio State Buckeye podcast. Cole does a tremendous job. As always, thank you for watching. This has been a blast. And Cole, take us home.
For myself, Cole McDaniel, and Vince McKee, everybody enjoy the rest of your night. Enjoy the rest of your week.
Climate Tech is a full-service company. We install as well as service both residential and commercial products. We service furnaces, air conditioners, heat pumps, boilers, mini split systems, tankless hot water. We've got a good group of technicians that have been developed into a company culture that delivers a good degree of confidence to the customer and gives us a good product output. They want to take care of the customer and make sure that the customer is satisfied with their service. And when you've got non-stressed employees at your home, you're going to get a greater result from that service call or from that installation. Our customer needs, comfort, and health are of utmost importance, and we strive to provide that to every customer within their budget. As we continue to grow, we remain focused on maintaining our high level of customer satisfaction. When you hire Climate Tech, you're hiring a whole team of experts that have been in the business well over 80 years. If you're looking for a new install, if you're looking for just maintenance on your equipment, we are the company of your choice.